and then I'm going to ask, and then if everyone that would like to introduce themselves could unmute, we could introduce each other. I did send the invitation to about 85 people around the world. Some are people that from all appearances, they have been distributing cookers, making cookers, and they've been invited to all the forums, but I don't know if their email is getting put off in a little folder that they don't know where it's happened, maybe a spam folder, but it hasn't bounced. And then there are plenty where it's still going. And I'm going to Dave Oxford. I'm going to send you an ask
Yeah.
to unmute thing because I had to mute you earlier. I don't know if that went through. I just did that. There we go. Okay.
Hiya,
Great.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, yes.
Perfect. Great.
I can't hear myself on the thing, so I wasn't sure where it was going. Well, hello everyone. I forgot about this until about 45 minutes ago when you sent us a reminder. So here I am.
Great. And describe what you're doing to promote solar cooking in Cornwall. Or
This
anywhere.
year, virtually nothing. We had 2 months of, well, more than 2 months of rain, and consequently, I've had to have had a little bit of sun recently, but I've had to catch up in the what you might call a vegetable garden, and the list of things to do has been huge. So I actually haven't done. I've done virtually nothing about solar cooking this year. We've just been running the Facebook site, but that's it.
Okay. Great. Well, I'll go across the top row here then, and David, you go next. Tell us your history and everything you're up to right now.
Am I the only David?
Uh, David, yeah, the other one's Dave.
Okay.
The one is Dave.
All right. So, my father, Richard Wareham, started a organization called the Sunstove Organization in Southern Africa, probably 30 some years ago, and we have quite good success there over the years, decades actually, making anywhere from about 500 a month, and selling those regularly out, either to the Girl Guides or to other farmers or to other industries that wanted them for their employees, that type of thing. And it's been going very well. Unfortunately, now my father has passed. A lot of the volunteers have stopped, or they have passed, and trying to reboot that again. We still have the mold. We still have somebody willing to make the sun stoves, all that type of thing. We have the sources. Might have to resource some of the components, but everything's there and ready to fire back up again. So, yeah, it's a long history of that, and yeah, that's about it. So my dad's thought on the whole thing was that it needs to be made locally, local materials, and stackable, local material, components, everything local. And obviously, he was right with all of that because you're trying to keep the price down. So that's about it. Sunstove organization. It's also called the Sunstove 2000. You'll find a whole bunch of things on the internet and on our website. So that's about it from David.
Thanks. Yeah, and for all of you, you all have some notation on the Solar Cookers International wiki, solarcooking.org. The Sun Stove is on there, including the plans for the cooker and the what was it called, the Refugee, kind of a smaller, more compact version of it. Obviously, the simplicity. We've been able to make sure some of the newest videos that Alan has posted about his cooker. Um, the efforts of Dave Oxford and Stu McLaughlin. I'm pretty sure I've got them on there. I interviewed both of them 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 2023, I think, when I was in England. An incredible story, and I totally sympathize with the weather. Minnesota, we could have a month of sun or a month of clouds, a month of rain or snow, and hope for sun in between. Today, it's one of those, you look at the radar and it looks like fingers. here's rain, here's sun, here's rain. And you just hope that if you're in the sun part, just keep going parallel. So just keep getting sun. But anyway, so if you're not on the wiki or you need to update it, solarcooking.org, find your article and you can edit it yourself, but you can also contact Paul Hedrick or Tom Sponheim. Their names are on the wiki as the moderators, editors. They make sure it's kept up to date with events. I can't wait till I get more of a calendar for the festival and conference in September ready to post. So, because then that'll go up and hopefully that'll generate some more interest as well. And I'll talk about that a little later for everyone to understand. It's kind of a crazy idea for making sure everyone in the world can participate, and I hope it works. But meantime, Patrick Sherwin, if you're available and able to unmute, if you're not driving through frantic Cincinnati traffic.
Hey everybody, thank you so much, Luther. I love that. I love what you're doing here, getting us all together.
Thanks.
I've been doing solar for 25 years, and I'm more interested in how we get it to power our lives. Kind of centered or like I'm a bit of a designer, inventor. The company GoSun built over the last 10 years or so has largely done a lot of crowdfunding. So we crowdfund products, and we've even done crowdfunding for equity for investment. We're in the United States. Originally, we started with a strong interest to bring our technology to developing countries. And then after 5 years of pushing pretty hard, we discovered how difficult that was. Well, we discovered it for 5 straight years and spent nearly $1 million. We don't have a ton to show for it in those environments as much as I would like. Sub-Saharan Africa, India, Nepal, Haiti. We've put stoves all over in continents and subcontinents. And more recently, we kind of have focused on a reality of building a business and staying sustainable in the developed world. Still a big believer in the power of cooking with the sun. I do it as much as I can. We've had incredible weather in April. I've also been using the sun to power my vehicle, an electric car, and we're getting ready to launch a couple more kind of solar meets the roadway inventions, little cars and carports and I'm not trying to abandon the solar cooking world. I just need to keep the business afloat, and have struggled a lot with, I guess, what you would call like cultural adoption with the vacuum tube ovens that GoSun invented. So that's me.
Thanks. Yeah, and I got to say, I know you have that rooftop box that folds out into solar panels that can charge your EV. And I remember when I first saw that, and I thought, well, and clearly, I don't know anyone else that has done that. I have seen, though, in the last few weeks on some of the van life channels where someone has figured how to glue a flexible panel onto the hood of your car or the roof and then snake the solar into your battery pack for van life. So someone is apparently trying to worm their way into that market, which has to be growing. I actually just picked up a flexible panel that I hope to adhere to the roof of my Buick because I do a lot of my solar road trips on that. 300 watts. Hopefully that'll keep my Blue Eddy charged, but we shall see. So kind of a first to market thing that you got that there. Hopefully that'll keep expanding. I just see Randy Harwood just joined. Randy, 2 years ago was it? We dropped in on you there in Fargo.
Yeah, I believe that's right. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. How you doing?
Doing well. How about you?
Very good. Very good. Yeah, we're just doing introductions. Give everyone here a snapshot view of Solar Oven Partners.
Yeah, I am the director of Solar Oven Partners. We're a ministry that provides, we put our components together in South Dakota, and then we ship them to Sierra Leone and the Dominican Republic and take them down to the Navajo Nation down in New Mexico. And when we're on site, we build the ovens and show people how to use them in our seminars. And we just completed a trip to Sierra Leone in West Africa, where we distributed 207 of our ovens over there. So it was a successful trip. But yeah, we're hoping to expand here in this next year and keep things going.
Great. Well, and two things about your model. You do have you ship them by the pallet loads. I helped Gene Bethke put together a pallet twice, actually. Once in 2020. Him and Marge Evans DiCarpio, one of your predecessors, were my first solar road trip guests. I keep forgetting they were because it was a surgical strike into
Oh,
South Dakota and back before my big long road trip out west.
okay.
And it was amazing. I don't know, 500 or I don't know, just stacked on the pallets and then ready to ship. And then
Yeah,
he
we
showed me
yeah we
this. Yeah,
yeah we ship a container load.
yeah.
Yeah.
He showed me the container you guys had. In fact, it seemed to me like it was the longest type. So if you fill that, you're really packing them in. The other thing to note that I know
Oh yeah.
I've been going through as many hardcover and online copies of past solar cooking conferences where they do research papers and discussions of promotion and so forth. And one going back to 1992, the very first one by Solar Cookers International, done at in Stockton at the University of the Pacific. One of the main things they said was make sure people are educated in them. Don't just hand them a cooker and walk away. And that is a primary point of your work down there. If you want to describe how that works, it's a day or two.
Yeah, we have 2 day seminars. What we do is we set out about half a dozen of our ovens on the first day, and then we prepare the recipes that we're going to have for the day. We start cooking in the morning. It takes, depending on the ovens, we set them out and let them get up to temperature. They can get as high as
Oops, I think we lost you there, Randy. Well, anyway, I know that they get up to I think in the 300 range, at
yeah,
least. And
350.
there we go. Go ahead.
Yeah, they get up to about 350, and then we start cooking it at around 250, 275. We start putting the materials in there. We use black cooking pots to help absorb the heat. So we put those in there, and it takes between 2.5, 3 hours to cook the recipes. If we're cooking hard boiling eggs in them, we just put the eggs in the ovens. You don't need to boil water or anything. We just bake them in the oven, and that only takes about an hour and a half or so to get them done. And then we bake cakes in there, rice. In Sierra Leone, they cook a lot of fish soup with potato leaf or cassava leaf, and so we cook that for them. And then while we're doing our seminars and explaining the purposes of the ovens, things like that, then we take a break and they can test the food that we bake in them just to show that it does work really well, and the food tastes really good. So there, and then we continue on with the seminar and talk about how the ovens can help them with better health, help them with their finances, where they're not spending money on charcoal or wood to burn fires in their homes or right outside their homes, and then they can use that extra money for better food or other things around their household. And also, a lot of people think, well, it's 3 hours or 2.5 to 3 hours of my time that I have to use. Well, then we explain to them that they can, during that time while they're cooking in there, they can do other things. They can whether they repair things at the house or play with their kids or do things like that. It's time that they can spend with doing a lot of different things, because you don't have to. It's like a slow cooker. You don't have to stir the stuff inside. You just set it kind of and forget it, and then check it to see the doneness every once in a while. But and then we show them how to take care of it. We show them how to clean it, how to make sure that the reflectors aren't damaged and things like that. And we actually spend time building the ovens with them, so they know how they're put together. They know how they're constructed. So that also gives them some buy-in on using the ovens. And like in Sierra Leone, we charge 250 leones, which is around $25 in US. So we don't, we do that because we want to make sure that they have some ownership. When we first started out 20 some years ago in Haiti, we were giving the ovens away, and we found that what happened was that when you give something for free, people would sell their pots, they would sell their utensils, things like that, and then the ovens would just get tossed away. So in order to have some skin in the game for the people that get the ovens, we charge a very nominal amount, so that they make sure that they use the ovens and use them properly and things like that. So, and we have, for each region that we're in, we have specific recipes tailored for Sierra Leone, tailored for Dominican Republic, for the things that they like to eat regionally. So, so yeah, that's kind of so at the end of our 2-day seminars, then people are pretty well acquainted with the ovens, and then we send them home with an oven, and present it to them, and it's kind of a big ceremony, like a graduation ceremony at the end of the presentations. So yeah, it's a lot of fun and a lot very meaningful to do. So we're hoping to expand into Africa a little bit more, and continue. We'd like to get back into Haiti, but it's a little bit still a little too dangerous to get over there on the other side of the border. But we can we're kind of concentrating our efforts on the refugee camps along the border of the Dominican Republic and Haiti. So so there you go.
Great, thanks. Yeah, two items. I'm going to mention them so they'll stick in my brain to talk about: eggs and Cuba. Now, eggs first. When you mentioned eggs, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago on the Solar Cookers World Network, someone said, "Well, we just put a carton of eggs in our sun oven or our Solar Oven Society Sport, and hard boil our eggs without water in
Yep.
the cardboard carton, not the plastic one.
Oh yeah.
You'd have plastic coated eggs.
Oh, they just
And
kept it right in it. They just kept it right in the carton, huh?
yeah. And so when
Oh,
I saw that, I thought, well, again, it's one of those every day or two or a month, some aha moment comes or dope, a Homer dope slap like that. And I thought, well, shoot, so I've got all these box cookers. So I put one out. And after an hour, I checked one of the eggs. It was an 18 count carton in the cardboard, pulled one out and tapped it, and it was that kind of slurpy, soft boiled egg with the
oh,
kind of
perfect.
almost like candy consistency yolk.
Yeah.
And I think of it as, when I've seen these things, I think of England. Dave can correct me if I'm wrong, where they have the little stand that they put it on, and then they tap around the edge, take off the top, and then spoon out. And
Yep.
it's like a imami custard, I guess you could call it. It's my favorite way. And I thought, okay, now I know at about an hour, this thing. And I thought that all of them would be soft boiled. I took another one out. Well, the closer they were to the edge, where the black part of the cook box was, the closer to hard boiled they were. So you couldn't just say, well, they'll all be soft boiled in an hour. But in the center, where they're kind of insulated from the hottest part, at an hour you got soft boiled. So someday I'm going to figure out how to do that exactly. I don't know. But the other one, Cuba, I was mentioning, I think before we got totally underway, I had coffee with her name's Teddy Potter, and she's head of MEDIC, MEDICC, and it's a group that's focused on getting solar energy products to Cuba. And especially with the embargo, they want to get solar cookers there now because they're still doing the cooking fuel. They are getting solar panels down there, and they're focusing on like hospitals and maternity homes. New mothers living in these maternity homes where they've been able to put, I think, do 6 or 7 of them with 5, 6 kilowatts on the roof. So with an induction cooker, they'll probably be okay. um, but they want to get solar thermal cookers there in some kind of volumes. And I did forward the link to Solar Urban Partners. You may get a call from them if you're not averse to expanding sites to Cuba. Definitely, they're talking about really severe circumstances like hospitals. Where people they can't do operations and medicines are getting spoiled because they can't refrigerate them. Because of the gas powered power
Yeah,
plants, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, just a bug in your ear. If you're interested, I could send you her information.
sure.
But very good conversation. She knows that some people are like, well, they still have that the Reagan Cold War spirit, which is, of course, I don't get it. I mean, they're 90 miles away. They just want to, survive. But regardless, yeah, I'll get you her information. That would be really wonderful if you could expand there.
Sure.
Anyway, so those are my two, and then I see who do we have left? We've got we just Odile Brock. Would you like to introduce yourself? Maybe just say a few words about solar household energy.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, very good.
Okay, great. My name is Odile Brock, Odile pour les Français. Um, and I'm a member of Solar Household Energy Inc., which promotes distribution and knowledge of solar cookers all over the world, or at least we try to very hard. I was founded in 1998 by some stars that I did not get to know, but my daughter started working with them, and then I joined. I'm also an ex-Foreign Service officer wife. My husband was stationed overseas for 20 years. My family followed. It was fun, and we got to really live for 2 or 3 years at a time in different countries, most of them solar rich and wealth poor countries. So that kind of all spurred my interest in solar cooking. And I guess you've all had that moment where you show someone how it works. You cook some rice for them, and they're just amazed. And I lived in some countries that, like Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo. You'd think it would be a great place for solar cooking, but it really isn't because it's covered by clouds 100% of the time, half the year. There's actually some sunshine during the rainy season because there's intermittent rainy clouds and sunshine. So you have to know the local conditions. The problem, everything I've heard today from Patrick and Randy is so familiar. Like you've got to be on site, you've got to teach, you've got to follow up, you've got to make sure they understand how to use it, they understand when to use it, and the benefits. If they're not sold on the benefits, it's so easy to go back to your old ways. It's the default. The default is getting the wood, getting the charcoal, whatever you use. And it's probably what your husband prefers because he grew up with that. So we've got a lot of barriers. But little by little, Solar Household Energy has had projects in Mexico, especially, but we're also associated with Roger Haynes' projects in refugee camps in Kenya. He's getting some success there, and we love to be associated with that. He's an advisor on our board. I'm the secretary of the board. Um, Lots of dedicated people there, and I like to hear that other people are also trying to distribute. And if you have a project that distributes 30 or 3,000 solar cookers, each one is very worthy and you'll learn as much from them as they learn from you.
Great. Thanks. A couple words about Solar Household Energy Inc. Full disclosure, I was asked to join the board about, I don't know, about this time last year, I suppose. And been a
Yeah.
wonderful group to work with, just so proactive, always looking for opportunities, and a great partnership with Roger Haynes with his the pop open and the 2.0, and he's always trying to Alan, you can appreciate this, well, all of you can. He's always trying to improve what he's got. And sometimes it's like, well, I don't know if it's an improvement, but it works. It works just as good as the other one. So whatever. But the other thing is, and I know I've told many people this, when I started collecting cookers in '04, I always hesitated to pick up panel cookers because I just thought I just could not see them doing the job. And one day the hot pot popped up somehow. I don't remember how, but I ordered. I think I directly got it from She Inc. And I thought, well, let's give it a try. And I put a beef stew in it and put it out all day, just maybe moved it once or twice. And at the end of the day, that beef, you didn't need a knife. It was like Jello. It was so tender, tasted just, they say that about what's that real slow cooking at like 171 degrees? What do they call that? In a bath of water. I saw a show where a guy did that with a steak for 24 hours, and at the end, it literally was like Jello. But he said it was the best tasting steak he ever had because it cooked at exactly the right temperature for as long as possible. Everything, all the starches converted, and so forth. So I had that, and I said to myself, I got to give up this prejudice against panel cookers because that just killed it. And so ever since then, every panel cooker I've gotten, I put them out there, and I've just been amazed at how just this little thing that folds up like origami can cook food and so well. So anyway, so I owe it to She Inc. for turning me around from my wayward anti-panel cooker days. um, well, I think we've covered everyone. Everyone's had a chance to introduce themselves. And as I mentioned in my note, the one topic that I wanted to talk about, and I'll be real brief, um, I had this crazy idea last year, partly due to the Tucson Citizens for Solar. They have for almost 40 years, well, 1983, so 43 years, except for 1 year during COVID, have hosted a solar potluck in Catalina State Park, which is about a half hour outside of the city of Tucson, middle of the desert. And they've done it generally in the Earth Week, Earth Day, and sometimes they've had it in September. And their biggest ones, they've had 100 or more people who each bring their own cookers. It's a potluck all day. Everyone brings their own food and everyone shares their food. And it's been this massive thing. And there's only one video documentation of it. Jim Arwood, who lived in the area and was on the Arizona State something energy board, decided to do some videos, and he did about a 10-minute segments on one of their potlucks. The videos include Barbara Kerr and Sherry Cole
Oh,
from when they had their sustainable living center in Taylor, Arizona, and just to see these solar cooking pioneers, it was really fantastic. Well, 3 years ago, I interviewed a fellow named Rob Crosland in Tucson who had this fantasy kind of a cooker. It was a crock pot, literally an electric crock pot that he snipped the cord from and then added reflectors, and they look like a jester's cap. They actually fan out this way, but they reflect enough of the sun before it curves away to actually be a slow cooker, but with solar energy instead of electricity. And I interviewed him, and their board, the Tucson Citizens for Solar board, met after we were done, and a little bit of that is on the video as well. And just as I was about to share it with him, I was telling him I was about done with editing it. I didn't hear back from Rob Crosland, and I had copied the TCCF board to say this is on the way, and if you have any thoughts on editing it. And one of them got back to me about a week later. Rob had passed away, and he was one of their leaders. Very, very dark moment for them. And one of them that responded, he said, maybe we should do a solar cooking conference in his memory. And so we tried to plan one in the Tucson area, which of course it's the most sunny point in North America. There's maybe pockets in Mexico, maybe a couple in California or Nevada, but Tucson, you got a sunblock, hats, long sleeves, so you don't bake yourself every day of the year. And we couldn't quite make it happen as a location. So I kind of consulted with them, and they said, "Well, what do you think about doing a decentralized conference?" And part of the germ for that was in Marseille last year at Le Presage, where the Console Foods Conference was held. Michael Bonk, who has an audio podcast that's about half solar cooking, half about EVs and photovoltaics, he suggested they skip one more year instead of going every other year, go do every 3 years, so that people weren't flying in and putting a big carbon footprint in the process of getting to one location. When obviously after COVID we had one conference that was entirely online, and they've been hybrid ever since. And I thought, well, that's good, except people really appreciate the fellowship of being there face to face. So I thought, well, that's fine, but the fellowship goes a long way when you're meeting people from other countries. But what about developing those fellowships in the regions where people can promote and have them be part of a conference where they can put on events, do their research papers from their very areas and their people. And so I thought, well, let's make it a decentralized conference, expand the dates so we can have every topic at all related to solar cooking covered with primarily events about promotion. Or I've got one day where we're just going to talk about the integrated cooking method, meaning you got a solar cooker, you got a hot bag, you got a wonder bag, a hay basket. So if you only got one cooker, whether it's gas or wood or solar, and you got 10 mouths to feed, well, you can get one thing started and it keeps cooking in the hay basket. Another thing started in another hay basket. And the hay baskets, if you got rags, you got hay baskets. So like one whole day will just be that. And if it's 4 or 5 hours on a Zoom call, well, we'll put it on a loop until the next day's event. So it's scheduled. I've scheduled it semi-arbitrarily for September 12th through the 30th. And the 12th, I am working with Tucson to reserve the Catalina Park for their potluck to kick off the whole thing, because that has been such a magnificent event. They are worried that it's like a lot of organizations, they get older, they don't have a real succession plan and bringing new people in. But I feel like this will be a way to really kind of get them back on track and recruit younger folks and so forth. And I'm going to help with the publicity. So I hope that'll be, and I'm going to be there to live stream it myself. I'll be there with my van, and I'll have a satellite internet. I won't name the brand because it's not necessarily a well received, but it works. I received the unit yesterday and I tested it, and I'll be able to do that. And another event I'll live stream is from on the 19th. Galveston hosts every year a sandcastle competition festival on the beach, and it goes for 2 days. And one day, the first day, Kurt Neubeck, who is an architect in Houston and is just a solar cooking genius. I've interviewed him 4 times because every time I talk to him, he's got something new going on that I said, we got to share that with the world. And it's all stuff about how to test materials. So you'll know what materials, don't do that, use this instead, kind of thing. Well, he has for 3 or 4 times driven out there with a van stuffed with solar cookers, including one of his own, just this huge thing that he's experimenting with, 15, 20 cookers, and demonstrating them on the beach. And everyone walking by, people, they cook with them all. They cook with like 5 or 6 of them. They'll have bacon in one and cookies, or cake, or they're cooking their lunch and their dinner with them. And I sat in with them to help them set up and recorded a lot of it. And I'm trying to put that together as part of the promo that I should get out by the end of the month to say, this is the kind of stuff when I say you're ready to host an event, if it's in Myanmar, if it's in Dusseldorf, I don't care where, but if you do your own live stream on Facebook or YouTube, you set it up, you record it, and we'll share it later since it'll be recorded anyway. that's the kind of stuff that just really, you look at the two or three people that pass by and maybe they're gone in 5 minutes, but that sticks with them. And he probably reaches out to a couple hundred people there at each event. So I'll be there for that as well. And I've got about four or five other people that I've kind of put the bug in their ear to do something live streamed. And one that in particular, I hope it can work. September is not good for a lot of India because of the monsoon season. But Vivek Kabra, who has put on 7 or 8 huge events with kids putting together their own panel cooker, cooking something in it, students, those as students, I don't know, I'm going to say 8, 10, 12 years old, teachers and parents walking amongst them to make sure they understand what they're doing. I mean, what better event could you have but to get 500 or 1,000, or he has one, I think it was 16,000 kids. I think it was like 6 or 7 soccer pitches filled with kids in rows and columns, and it's just fantastic. But he hasn't recorded like one event from beginning to end. So I'm hoping he can do something maybe in June or July and get 4 or 5 cameras out there, get a drone. He has one with a drone shot going from one end of the field with all these kids like ants, and you can see the little glints of the solar cookers. That's the kind of stuff I want to get more out there. It's the kind of stuff that it sure inspired me to see what he has done, and I think it'll inspire a lot of other people too, especially now with well, the world is kind of upside down as far as the energy markets. So, so that's one thing is I want it to be packed with as much live stream stuff where actual solar cooking is going on. One live stream could be how to put together the Copenhagen, or the Jim LaJoy has his plans online for the all-season solar cooker for DIY models. Sacramento City College put on one of those events, one online. It was about 2 hours where students at the college put them together. And Mary Buchanek and Jennifer Gasser with the Solar Education Project basically were the hosts to make sure people knew how to put the aluminum foil on the cardboard, what angles it had to be cut at, and so forth. And it was wonderful, and the you could just sense the enthusiasm amongst these students. Um, so that's one. Events. We'll also have, and this is standard. You got a solar cooking conference. I call it the festival and conference. If anyone wants to present a research paper of any kind, the only catch will be, and this may sound a little hard nosed, but I'm looking at, I could turn the camera there, but I got about like 7 or 8 hard copies of conferences from the past. And there's about 10 or 12 that are on the wiki. And I want whatever comes forward for research to be new. If it's been done before, I'll put it on the web. And it's on. In fact, we're uploading the very first conference Solar Cookers International put on in 1992. That just got uploaded to the wiki, so the whole book is there. So I want it to be new, or if they've done a paper on something 10 years ago and they've got news on that, great, let's do that. An update that moves the ball forward. There's progress in research and so forth. And those would all be pre-recorded in probably 2 or 3 days, as is typical like with Console Foods or with the past SCI conferences, 6 or 8 hours worth. And I would just release them on the YouTube channel the day that those would be put forward. And that'll help me a lot because I'll be doing, this is 18 days and I can't be doing 24/7, but I want it to be as close to a 24/7 thing where people can access stuff. If it's 2 in the morning in India when the live stream happens, well, they can get the recording of it at 8 o'clock the next day or 2 in the afternoon or something. And by the way, AJ Chandak from India emailed me. He said, "Well, I moved this from 10 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon here in Minneapolis." Well, for him, that moved it from about 9:30 or 10 at night to 1:30 in the morning. And he said, a lot of people in India are ready to, they're just used to having to get up in the morning to do these things internationally. But he says, no, I can't do that. But he sends his love. So the part of it will be presentations, pre-recorded, but there'll also be, I'm trying to shake a few things up. One I'm calling assignments, and there'll be a day where I'll have a list of about 8 or 10 things. When I've talked only about 200 solar cooks on Zoom, or out west, or in France or England, or and Spain, and people always come up with something. Well, if only we had this, if only we had that. And one thing that Sun Oven had added maybe 5, 6 years ago was 3 or 4 racks where you could dry vegetables and fruits inside the Sun Oven. So they'd be just wire racks where we could slice things up and dry in it. And you would just open the glass lid up a little bit. And I've done this where it hits about 160, 170, which is kind of the range where drying vegetables. You can do it in a day if they're like carrots or whatever. But are there other means? And I remember from Joe Radabau's book, people make candles with them. They make soap with them. Well, let's have a whole session on how do you make candles with them? How do you make soap? I haven't seen a video yet. If you find one, let me know. But assignments. But the big assignment that 2, 3 years ago, it just dawned on me. I was looking at one of the pots that I was using in the SK14, the big parabolic, so big flat pan. And before I put it on, it was upside down. And on the bottom, they had a symbol. They had 5 symbols for the types of stoves you could use it on. Halogen, heating element. What was it called? I forget. And induction, because it had the right gauge of stainless steel, maybe one or two others, but it didn't have solar. So that'll be an assignment. I don't care who takes it up. If they can get REI to make some of their cookware to have that stamped on the bottom, or OXO, or some big uh, cook pot, cook stove, cook pan manufacturer. Just add it on there. It's nothing. It's like all it is they run. You know how in the factories they just run it through a thing and chunk, and they go to the next one chunk. It'll cost them nothing. So, and I don't have the connections, and right now I won't have the time to try to do it. But try to get the ideas brewing for doing more than just, well, I'll devise the next possible Fresnel lens cooker or the next whatever. So anyway, so that's one item. Another big item is I just rejoined my makerspace here in Minneapolis, TC Makers for Twin Cities Makerspace. I've been there for a year to learn welding because I've had some ideas for putting together my own solar cooking contraptions and devices supporting peripheral things. And 2 years ago, Sacramento City College, which has a makerspace, and that's where they hosted the Copenhagen workshop, how to put together the Copenhagen. And they were really excited when I said, we got to tap into this makerspace ethos. Makerspaces, there's about 1,000 of them registered with Make Magazine online. You can look them up. If you're in Cairo, you'll see there's 2 or 3 in Cairo, Egypt. One in Ankara. Probably there's probably 4 or 5 in Berlin, 10 in Los Angeles. And Sharon Clausen, Craig Berglund, a handful of other people that I've talked to. One of the reasons they got into solar cooking was they found out about it from someone at a makerspace, or they wanted to make one, but they thought, well, how do I do it? I don't have a welder, I don't have a 3D printer, a CDC router, and so they joined their makerspace. Sharon Clausen was one, made a big box cooker as her first thing, and then she designed the Copenhagen, which, as we know, is it's one of the simplest. Is this brilliant design? 4 sheets of squares, tuck it up like a tulip. It's practically a parabolic, reflective panel cooker. So I've just been finishing up the draft of a note to go to all the maker spaces and just say, they won't know me from Adam, but I'm going to say the museum is sponsoring this challenge, and I'm thinking for the first 20, I could send $50 that they could put in the kitty at their maker space, or if it's an individual maker, it could help them defray the cost of materials. That'll encourage, a flow of videos where they'd record it at their maker space. It could be live, it could be pre-recorded. So anyway, I'm just saying, being impressed by Sacramento City College, Craig Berglund at Bridgewire in Reno, Nevada. He does solar cooking demos there all the time. Tapping into that kind of creativity, and it would be billed as basically come up with your own design for a solar cooker. And the only criteria is, cook with it. Does it work? Great. Do a video. We'll post it. So people will know they can just grab the idea and run with it on their own. So, in parallel to that, I hope to put together an ad in Make Magazine because they got a pretty good subscription base. and do and offer the same thing. Say, this is the maker challenge. It doesn't have to be maker space. Going to maker spaces because they've got the wherewithal, and also encourage people in Make Magazine to join their maker space. So hopefully it'll be a little way to help boost the membership rolls at maker spaces as well. So um, I'll stop there, and if there are any questions, if anything comes to mind, I can't remember. I think I've got two or three other things that I want to throw in the mix. Panels about various issues. That okay? This is a big one. Meeting with the San Diego folks, Roger Haynes, Jim LaJoy, Sharon Clausen, Paul Arvison, who I think he has a home out there on the coast near San Diego, and one or two others. We met about the need for. A lot of people have said that we need kind of a consumer reports way to rate solar cookers that are on the market at least, so people can make an informed decision as to which ones they buy for their own purposes. And it would be kind of like consumer reports for Ford versus Chevy, SUV versus a subcompact. It's not like we're saying this one's a bad one, but it's like, if this is a slow cooker, it's a slow cooker. And to have a panel to say what would be the criteria that would really cut to the chase to help people make the right choices without freezing out the creative energies out there that are coming up with new designs and so forth. So that would be a panel of anyone that would like to say, well, if I made a cooker, this is what I would want to be judged on, and to learn from it. If I call it the 5 sun rating, or if it's only 1 sun for one feature, like it doesn't get up to temperature, well, that if it doesn't, it should only get 1 sun. But if it gets really hot or it maintains temperature a long time, 4 or 5 suns, that sort of thing. But to have it be, what do you call that? When they cut, it's called crowdfunding for supporting a project with funds to get a whole bunch of people to throw in a little bit, and then you got a project. Well, this would be like crowd thinking, crowd formulation of the criteria. So it isn't just one person. I've got my own kind of hard and fast idea of what I'd have for criteria, but I'd want it to be something everyone can kind of get behind. Included amongst that would be the either a version of or a variation on the PEP test that Solar Cookers International has had for 5, 6, 7 years, but something that means something to everyone. Alan, go ahead. You had a
Well,
comment.
Solar Cooker International, they only tested power and they
Yeah,
didn't test the taste. They didn't
right.
test the material. They didn't test the speed or the slowness of setting up. For me, they didn't test enough.
Yeah.
Uh,
And they
uh,
and they're explicit about how they're just saying watts, the energy converted to the food, how much watts actually gets to the food. Alan Bigelow has tries to emphasize that. I think people have that impression, and they leave that impression because that's all they had. At one time, they had the specs to build your own tester for watts online, but they took that off after I interviewed him. And when I showed him my draft, he said you might want to take that off because apparently the board thought that was too much of a legal liability. I don't know. Regardless, they don't do that anymore, but they do still test cookers, and it's only one factor. It is only one factor. Everyone that if you bought 10 cars in your lifetime, two or three of them, it's like, why the heck did I buy that? If I'd have known, that the brakes always fail after 10 miles. Yeah, I don't know. So that's when a whole bunch of panels on topics like that. And I think we'll be able to get a lot of participation that way because people have a lot of experience that no one knows about. There's only about 50,000 videos about solar cooking out there, and 9 out of 10 when I pull them up, I go, okay, been there, done that, seen that one. But sometimes 1 out of 10, 1 out of 100 at least, a really cool idea comes up. I'm just editing my visit with James Sullivan in near Toronto last summer on our trip, and I'm doing little clips from his YouTube to kind of illustrate some things he talks about that he didn't have there because he only had two or three of his cookers. And one I had never seen this before. It's an egg-shaped egg timer, and it's got like it's kind of like silicone, and then it's got something where it gets the color of the yolk as it hits. If it hits soft, that means, oh, okay, it's reached the temperature where this should be a soft boiled egg. So it isn't like time. It's like as the temperature gotten to the point where it would. and then medium hard yolk, and then hard boiled egg. Um, I'd never seen that before. That's just another thing out there. But okay, so yeah, I'll leave it at that. I will email the whole thing. I'm getting that out before hopefully Tuesday because we're hitting the road again for 2 weeks to everyone on my list that I've done videos with, interviewed, talked to. Some of them are still in the editing booth for various reasons, but to encourage them to put forward anything that they'd like to do. And I really want to say, not to discourage research presentations, but those books I've gone through, I mean, there are a handful of things from 1994, 1997, the same guy every conference. Now I know this from my line of work in crime analysis, where I've been to crime analyst conferences. And the first one I went to, I'm like agog. I mean, I'm learning all this stuff. And the second I go to, well, okay, yeah. And then the third one, it's like, again, haven't you come up with something new? Anyway, so I want it to be as fresh as possible. Get and the emphasis too. If you submit a presentation on a research thing, one criteria, I don't want to be too hard nosed about it, but I want to say before you record it, you got to tell me how you're going to promote solar cooking. Because I got the sense from Console Foods, great stuff, good information. Some of it, well, yeah, kind of repetitive over the years because I've only been to four of them now, or five, I don't know, five, four of them. And but they don't talk about how they promote it. Are they actually promoting it where they are? And quick anecdote at um, in Spain, when Coruña, Deepak Gadya from India, he's kind of like the godfather of solar cooking and solar energy. He's got, solar powered ashrams and schools and hospitals. And I made the point from talking to so many people that everyone said, if you're promoting it in Africa, in Asia, in Haiti, and if they ask you, are you using this? And if you say, well, no, because we've got gas and we got, we have a pretty good grid in the States. A lot of Crosby Menzies told me this when I zoomed with him. He said one guy told another guy he didn't because he knows better and he does solar cook. But his friend that was helping him promote said, well, I don't. I'm in Pretoria and we got the modern kitchen and all that. And the guy said, "Oh, so this cooker is kind of like the Chicago Bulls T-shirts or hats or tennis shoes that you throw away, and we end up in these garbage mounds in Africa." You've heard about the clothing landfills. There's three or four countries. One in South America and in Argentina, I think, where they spontaneously combust because it's basically petroleum, just the nylon and all this stuff. Well, anyway, so Deepak, when I made that point in my presentation, I saw him in the audience as I sat down, and then he got up and walked toward the table where me and two others that had just presented were. And I thought, oh, this guy knows everything about solar cooking. He's gonna slap me. But the first thing he said was, you know what? You're right. I have never really solar cooked on my own. And from
Oh,
this day forward, I'm going to cook with the sun too. And I thought, here's a guy who has no reason to apologize for because he's promoted solar cooking, tens of thousands of people and whole institutions, campuses, solar powered for cooking, for heating. And yet he recognized you got to be doing it yourself. So I'm thinking anyone that presents, I want you to say, how are you promoting it? So, and if you're not, I'm gonna needle them until they commit to promoting. So, but anyway,
Just want you
oh,
to
I
know
see.
that I just cooked some lentils in my solar cooker today.
okay.
Excellent, excellent. Oh, they're the perfect rice and beans, lentils, all those legumes. Yeah. I see that AJ has actually joined us. I'm glad you could make it. Did you have a case of insomnia out there in India? AJ?
Oh,
Hello? Oh, we're seeing your frame light up, but yeah, go ahead. I think the connection might be the bandwidth might not be there. But anyway, keep trying. uh, anyway, AJ, we were just summing up the idea of the festival and conference of solar cooking in September and the various ways people can participate. And I'm going to send that list to everyone. I've got a list of about 800 people that I've interacted with, people that I've collected a cooker from for my museum that maybe I haven't interviewed yet. But everyone that I've done an interview with, whether they're posted yet or not, they will be. If you're waiting, they will be. They're just all backed up in my editing booth. Um, so anyway,
Yeah,
yes.
I could try to get all the people from the southwest of France to come over and stay here and we make it, especially all the people that couldn't make it to console food. And there's a few of them. And I think here it's big enough. I can put them up and we
Oh
can have
yeah,
fun.
yeah. You've got a lot of space there. People can bring their own tents if they have to, right?
Yeah.
And I should say, by the way, when the conference in Le Présage concluded, Alan and I went back to his place, and you had 2 or 3 days of solar banquets at his place. Dave Oxford, Dave was there, Dave and Lee. Must have been 6 or 8 around the table then inside, and there must have been 6 or 8 on the tables outside 2 or 3 times. That's what it's all about. Oh, by the way, and to parallel track Patrick last summer when we visited, he had his whole neighborhood over. There must have been 15, 20 people there, the food cooked with your solar kitchen. Tell us about that, Patrick, because that just really stuck in our minds as we drove off, going, "That's just brilliant!" A real community solar gathering.
Oh yeah, I'm always I love feeding people. It's the best sense of service and belonging and community and way to gather. Yeah, we did something back in October where we were invited by a local university to come up and demo, and then he says, "No, I want you to cook." I said, "Really, to cook? That's going to be, sunlight dependent and this and that." He says, "Yep, let's do it." So we rolled the dice on the weather. We have very variable weather here. It's never guaranteed that you'll have sun, unlike Tucson. And sure enough, we made 150 meals in 150 minutes for a bunch of college students here at Xavier University in Cincinnati, Ohio, using all, vacuum tube. And we have the electric backup to our tech. So if you do plan a big meal like that, like if you cater an event or if you're going to do the cafe thing, you still can pretty much feed hungry people. But yeah, I'm constantly motivated by the idea of a solar cafe. Um, I see what's going on out in France, and I really admire that effort, and I think that it's culturally very challenging in the States, that people would actually, prefer to eat something like this or even pay more or be patient or all of these things that, people are generally unable to. If it's not more convenient, cheaper, and tastier, then they don't want it. And so I certainly struggle to make this practical. But yeah, I'm within my own network. I'm always cooking for people, and even have considered little pop up cafes. And I was mentioned earlier on the call, I'm working on a new vehicle that will be all electric, 100% solar powered vehicle, and then it'll be able to turn into a little pop up cafe. And well, that'll actually debut in a week at like an Earth Day event here in downtown Cincinnati. And I'm literally gonna, cook for as many people as I can, and we'll have little watch stations and solar powered cooler and so rain or shine, we can plug in our cookers if we plan to cook 100 meals, but there's no sun, we can always plug in and keep the cooking going with 1/10 the electricity because you're still cooking inside these vacuum insulated tubes. But yeah, thanks for the chance to share again, Luther.
Sure, yeah, no, like I say, Joe and I were there, and first off, the food was fantastic. I mean, you're a chef in your own right there, Patrick, and I recall in the age ranges were closer to ours for most folks there, but there were younger folks, and the one was a woman. She just got out of high school, right? And she was going to go to college for some eco type degree. Had a long, really great conversation with her. 18 years old. I mean, this is the future we're talking about. And so her being able to see the solar banquet, live it out. Maybe she'd been there before. I don't know, but it was just delightful. So, and that reminds me too of tomorrow. There's an event. Carla Ramsdell, who I interviewed back in 21, I believe, in North Carolina, Appalachian State University. She got a grant for the university to build a basically a kitchen where she can measure and demonstrate what it takes for energy for making food, cooking food for, but also everything down the chain. Like, and the example she gives is, why do people buy jars of preserved garlic when regular garlic is already shelf stable? I've had garlic for 2, 3 months, and then we can get humid months in the summer where maybe it starts to go bad. But you don't need to dice it up, and then you got to refrigerate it, and then you got to put in the probably those little preservatives, and so she goes through the whole science of it. She calls herself the food scientist, and so tomorrow Joe and I signed up for. She put out a call for people to go through a recipe, two recipes, and go through the whole idea of the physics behind cooking and food production and so forth. Well, 3 or 4 years ago, well, before we met with her in 2021, she had put a banquet in this big long set of tables on the campus, and really the most beautiful part of Appalachian. It's in the mountains, really beautiful area, and most of the food was solar cooked right there with solar cookers. Probably 100 or more people. I'll see if I can find that video. I should share that with my note. But
Can you repeat her name,
anyway,
please, Luther?
sure. Carla with a C, Carla Ramsdell, Ramsdell. And if you look for the YouTube channel, No Watts Cooking, as in Know, and the word Watts, Watts, cooking, and I think it might be all one word, but if you put that in there with her name, you'll get her YouTube channel. She has one 50-minute video with 8 or 9 or 10 solar cookers, and she does a brilliant job explaining how to cook with the sun. And she had one cooker that I did not have. It was they call it the solar espresso cooker in Germany, I think, all one word. And she could, and they had been out of business. But I emailed, yeah, I emailed them last year, and I said, by any chance, do you have any left? Because I couldn't find an order form on their website. I forget who put it out. And they said, "Oh yeah, we've been meaning to put that back up. They have a few left, so they sold me one. I've got it now." But anyway, well, AJ, do you want to give it another try? I see you're on camera now. Hi, AJ.
Mute. I'm trying to find my mics.
Oh, I
Yes.
can hear you now.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So introduce yourself. What I know you have done a lot of solar cooking and researching solar cooking.
Yeah, I'm Ajay Chandak, and I do design a lot many solar cookers and other alternative cooking systems like biogas and biomass stoves. And my popular cooker is Prince 15, which is a domestic cooker, 1.5 square meter. And then another a small community cooker, Prince 40, that is 4 square meter, which can cook for 40 people. And then we have a capability of manufacturing Schaeffler cookers, 16 square meters. And then my community steam system, 25 square meter dish. Unfortunately, the 25 square meter dish is not manufactured these days. I licensed my patents to one company. Till 2014, they did very good job. They did installation for cooking for more than how much 30,000 people at different locations. But then after 2014, things changed, and most of the big solar cooker manufacturers in India, especially steam system, most of them went out of business. But now after because of this war in the uh, Iran, there was a shortage of LPG, and we saw renewed interest of people in all alternate cooking, solar cooking, as well as the other options. Biomass stores was most popular. But almost all the solar cookers that we had in stock were sold out. So we started manufacturing new batches. Generally, my interest is in development and commercialization of technologies. I try not to manufacture myself. I just distribute the technology to others. And last year, I had two training programs in Africa, in Burundi, teaching them manufacturing domestic and small community solar cookers. Those workshops were interesting because they were not allowing us to import anything, not the reflectors or nothing. And Burundi is a very poor country, almost the last in the development index. And they had very limited steel sections which were available in the market. So we have to do everything from scratch, redesign the whole systems. But it was a very good job. Like now, those people started manufacturing on their own. Uh, that's kind of a training I like to impart to the people how to design and manufacture these concentrating solar cookers. That's my interest. And for this festival kind of stuff, if I don't have an idea, we are doing it everywhere.
Yes, the idea is it's decentralized, um,
Okay.
and the it came out of the kind of long. It's been in my brain for a long time. I go to these conferences, the Console Foods, for my
Yes.
own job in crime analysis, a couple
Hmm.
others for when I was a professor at Metro State, and kind of a side thing as a community faculty. And how the first conference was always really exciting. I learned a lot. And then the second one, well, was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I was glad I was there. And then the third one, I'm thinking, if it's a 3 day conference, 2 of the 3 days, I'm thinking, I got to go catch a movie, because I've already learned all that stuff. And because everyone flew in and they're at great expense, maybe they're updating a paper they've done before. And sometimes things they're not as new as they maybe could be, or maybe they're rehashed. And I'll be honest, Console Foods, I've loved being there. The fellow being in person and having the solar fellowship, it's be almost impossible to reproduce that. But what I'd like to do is see that happen regionally. If in your area of India or in France, as just Alain mentioned, being able to bring people from the south of France and whoever can show up, maybe it'd be a little bit of a Woodstock, call it soul stock, no bands, no bands, yeah. But yeah, to have events, to have, for instance, if you had folks that could talk uh, at length about the resurgence of solar cookers, especially now when we see the need. Before you logged in, I talked about a woman who is working to get solar cookers into Cuba, because Cuba is, even before the war started, really got pinched with that, with the Venezuela and all that. And so they are seeing a real uptick in the interest in solar cookers. So, um, but anyway, so it'd be, and when I send the note, I'll be sending the email out by Tuesday, because Tuesday I got to drop Joe off at the airport, and then I'm going to hit the road for 2 weeks, and I want it to be out there while I'm out on the road, and people can decide how they want to participate. Maybe do a live stream event. For instance, if you knew where they were reestablishing the manufacturing of cookers and could do a video of them presenting their cookers, as they're coming off the assembly line, that would be great. In fact, one of the sessions I've been calling the manufacturers showcase. Alan, talk about the simplicity. Patrick, about the GoSun. Um, David, if there's an update by September on the sun stove, or Randy, did it work out to connect with Cuba? Patrick, of course, So anyway, so stuff like that, and it'll all be in the email. It's getting to be a long list of ways people can participate. and I don't want to minimize the research, but I've set aside September 12th to the 30th, so 18 days of, one whole day will be just about peripherals to solar cooking, like the hay baskets, like rocket stoves and so forth. Stuff that if you're in a country where you get 9 months of sun, but then you got 3 months of rain, well, you're gonna have to use wood. Maybe you have to use wood. We'll use a rocket stove, that sort of thing. So once the note comes out, any questions you have, or if you have an idea for a unique way to say, here's how we're using solar cooking, here's a new design. Really excited to hear if it. Did you say the Prince cooker had stopped being produced, but now it's coming back?
No, no, no. The bigger version of Prince.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We have 1.5 square meter. That's a domestic one, equivalent to SK14. Then we have a 4 square meter that can cook for something like 40-50 people. And then we had another 25 square meter that was a steam system that could cook for 100 people.
Yeah.
So those steam systems we licensed to one company. They did a good business earlier, but these days they are not doing well. But I think there might be a resurgence in that. But the 1.5 and 4 square meter, they are still manufactured by one of my friends and they are sold in the market.
Well, great. If you could send me their contact information, maybe I could have a Zoom call with them to talk about how they can, put either pre-record or in the Zoom call for the manufacturer's showcase in September, whatever works out, because we want to get the word out every which way we can. And also, the one reason I'm 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 glad we're going to be doing it international, but it'll be the local groups that'll do their own stuff, is being able to get like press releases to, I don't know what the Dublin, Ireland newspaper is, but the London Times for what Dave Oxford and Stuart McLaughlin are doing, so people will and who knows, some of them it's like, what, and throw away the press release, but they're going to hear about it. And hopefully the people that are doing events will keep in touch with the press and so forth. So the same for India. I've always talked about how my impression has been India has always been in the forefront for solar cooking. And a lot of the people I talk to from India say, we're not doing so much. Well, it's like us here. I mean, the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence, But anyway, so yeah, hopefully we can do something like that. And each note that I send to people on my list, I'm going to try to make sure it's partly from a boilerplate to make sure I get all the details of the ways to participate, but also I want to put a personal note up front. So if there's stuff like that where I can make sure, hey, that would be an excellent thing to put forward for a presentation, or a live stream. A live stream in the factory would be really cool to talk about the various elements that go into it. I don't know. I'm just brainstorming and not trying to
Yeah,
impose what.
I can make those videos. I can make those videos for the live stream, or maybe I can pre-record the manufacturing system, how those are manufactured.
That would be fantastic. That would be excellent.
And during the festival time, maybe we can organize at 4 or 5 locations in India, and maybe 200-500 people we can engage in solar cooking and demonstration, and we can do that.
Yeah. Oh, that would be the ultimate. That would just be tops.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the
And we got plenty.
last conference we had on 23rd Jan, and now from 15th of April, that is after 3-4 days, from 15th April to 21st, for 1 week, there will be Jimmy McGillan Sustainability Week, where we will be doing a lot of solar cooking. There is a solar cooking festival on 15th April in Indore.
Yeah, and you know people that can bring cameras and record stuff, and that's the kind of stuff where you could share it with me. I could help with editing it for so it'd be for the conference or put it on my channel to show what you got going. Is that possible?
Okay, I'll try to do on 15th, because lot many people will be there in a solar cooking festival, and the other players in India, like it is done on in Indore with Janak McGillan. She does a lot of solar cooking and lot of promotion. And Deepak Gadia will be there, and I'll be there, and there are a few more people. So maybe that festival I will try to record and send you some videos from there.
That, oh, that'd be excellent.
That
That
will be
above and beyond the Call of
that will
Duty.
be in the
Thank you.
enterprise. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anything, any questions about this so far? Oh, every time I'm about to stop, I think there's one other important point. In 2020, when I went to the Console Foods conference in Faro, Portugal, and every day 15, 20 presentations, and four or five people would come up and they're that not native English speakers. And they would start off by saying, I have to apologize for my English. My English not so good. And I felt like raising my hand and saying, you don't apologize. Us monolingual fools who never learned another language, we should apologize to you for where you're forced into this box where you have to present in English. Well, so for the presentations and certainly for the live streams, uh, no restrictions. You don't have to do the presentations in English. One reason for that is I have found, I started my YouTube channel in 2020. Initially, and you get the closed captions, and so the English shows up, but they also have, you can say, show the captions, and then click on translate and bring up your own language. Now, when I first did that, 2020, 2021, I would check Spanish to just kind of check how was the translation, and it was okay. I'm not fluent in Spanish, but I could tell where there were some pretty big mistakes in the translation back in 2021, 2022. But they're getting really good. They're improving a lot. And Joe, who is fluent, my wife, she's fluent. She has checked, and they are really getting to where there'll be the occasional one where solar might end up being a sewing stitch or whatever. The translation in English, or the caption in English will be something, and that's what's going to get translated. But I don't want any barrier in the way of anyone being able to participate. And no one should have to apologize because they don't speak this one corner of the world's languages. So I feel that's important to know. Yes,
Yeah,
Alan.
that was one of my questions. Is many of my friends here, they don't speak English,
Right.
but they've got stuff to say. They could participate. So if you think there's a way we can have them speak French and you get some kind subtitle translation, that would work out. And on the other way as well, so they can understand what you say, because I would be really a poor translator uh, live.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and the bare minimum that I hope to be able to do is if someone presents in German, I'll put a
Yeah.
little with the pre-recorded ones, it'll be easy. Where at the front, I'll say the presentation is in German. Pause now and follow these instructions. Click on closed caption, click on translate, and translate it from German to your language. If
Mhm.
that's Italian, if that's English, and vice versa. If mine will be in English, if you're in Urdu or Hindi, click on closed captions and then click on Hindi, click on Urdu, click on Greek. You know, and there may be some languages are better translated by YouTube than others. It'll be there though, and then like 5 years later, the translation will be better, because it'll be all stored. And
Yeah.
so I just want my whole thought from my community organizing days. How do you take barriers away from people to participate in any way, shape, or form? I mean, people think of the language thing as a handicap. It's not a handicap. I mean, people are fluent and express everything very well in their own language, and they should be able to do that. And we should bend a little bit, to say, I'll translate your Italian to my English or your Urdu to my English, or whatever. So I make that point because I have that in the write up for each note that's going to go out. I got to put it as close to the front as possible so people understand they don't have to worry about that. So
That'd be fantastic.
yeah.
That'd be really great. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions? Seriously, I'm gonna wait for any
No.
questions or reflections, comments. Where am I
How is
all wet?
how
What's it?
is Minneapolis these days?
Well, the ICE presence has greatly diminished, but that doesn't mean they're behaving well elsewhere. I mean, frankly, one day we had the whistles and the car horns, and Greg Bovino himself, the head of was a border patrol, was at our gas station behind our house,
Oh.
and the network of the people that wanted to document their abuses, and we've seen the abuses were out there. There must have been 100 on our corner. And I don't know how they found out so fast, but we heard the car horns of, they're calling them commuters. You know, they're commuting to work. They're the volunteers that find out when these gaggles of ICE officers are on their way somewhere, and they follow them in their cars. This is not necessarily safe. I mean, we've seen people get beat up by them just for following them, and courts have said, no, that's illegal. There's gonna be thousands of lawsuits from people that have been beat up for no good reason, but just documenting, the crap that they've been doing. But anyway, um, that was during about a 3-day window when ICE and DHS had been ordered to stop uh, shooting pepper balls, using mace, stop doing traffic stops on people following them. There's nothing illegal about that. And so they were on their best behavior, but there's 50 or 100 of us and recording the whole thing. And Bovino, he got refused service by the gas station. The gas station manager, he's on video where some guy was pro ICE was saying, "You can't do that. That's illegal." He says, "No, it's legal. We can refuse service to anyone, and no one wants them here." And then the guy goes to Bovino and says, "Isn't that illegal?" And Bovino, he had nothing to say because it was totally legal. And so he's just got his head hung down. 2 hours later, another judge reversed the order, and a park where they went to, Bovino was the first guy. Here's the gas canister. He's throwing the tear gas out. So we kind of literally possibly dodged a literal bullet that day because it was during that court order. Um, but it is way down. There's a website if you want to see, and it goes back to January, 2 days after the inauguration, where they have been reported around the country. And it's educational to see how January through mid-March, Minnesota, before January, Chicago, before that, Los Angeles. So, but never very many in Texas or Florida. And, not to, don't want to get too deep into politics, but there's a reason. There's a reason. So, I'm still on the network of people who are ready to go out with the whistles if we need to, or the camera, our phones and cameras. Um, anyway, so yeah, but we lived through it. Um, and just as you've probably seen some of the stories. I wouldn't have been able to guess it except I knew my fellow Minnesotans. There was an article in, I think it's a magazine called Public Affairs, and the title was "The Minneapolis Resistance Will Do Your Laundry." And the idea was people had figured out, these folks that are stuck in their house, in their apartments, where they don't have
Oh.
laundry facilities, so they don't want to leave their apartments and go down to the basement where there might be laundry facilities. These are people that say, leave it out by the front door. We'll do your laundry and bring it back. That's really, if any of you know the novel, The Grapes of Wrath, if you read The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck, the last chapter in the novel is just heartbreaking. And put a spoiler out there, a woman during the Depression had a stillborn baby, and they were on the road in Oklahoma or trying to get to California, trying to find work. And they find this abandoned farmhouse where an elderly farmer was just dying from starvation. And so this new mother who had no child now to feed fed this guy. Well, there's a group of moms in Minneapolis. They call them super producers, where they make more milk than they can feed their babies. So they store them in their refrigerator usually to keep going, whatever. But they shared that with moms who couldn't produce as much, or maybe they weren't eating as well, so they couldn't. Just all this stuff is going to come out over time, but it's huge. So anyway,
It's
yeah, thanks for asking.
it's heartwarming solidarity. Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
Luther,
Well,
you're bringing tears to my eyes, but I want to, I don't have a question. I'm going to make a small digression. On Monday, a group of people is joining on Capitol Hill. I live near Washington, D.C., to bring awareness to the dangers of artificial intelligence. There are artificial intelligence uh, machines now, systems that can break into every banking system, every personal computer, everything can be broken into. And these machines have already been caught lying to their creators, cheating and dissembling and just being worse than humans are at their worst, with infinite power compared to us. So I think this is something when we're talking about education, uh, it may very well overwhelm us very fast.
yeah,
We're going to all need our solar cookers at some point. This is
yeah,
the tie back to solar cooking.
sure,
Our solar cookers are not going to be on the World Wide Web personally. They're
yeah.
only dependent on on sunlight.
Well,
Um,
and to tie, sorry to interrupt, but the AI and the connection and the detriment it is causing for solar cooking. I have a daily Google alert. You can get on Google and say, put in Alan Bivas. If any reference that ends up on the web with your name, Alan, will pop up. Okay, hey, you did a demonstration in Toulouse or whatever. Cool. I mean, then I could, know what's good things are happening. I have the guy who directed my first play in that, Stephen Peabody. So if he pops up, one day he was in a play in New York. I flew out there, saw the play. I wouldn't have known about it otherwise. He was so busy doing the play, he didn't tell his friends he was in this play. Well, the I've have one search that says, give me anything that says solar cooker, solar oven, solar stove, and that ends up on the web. And there might be 5 or 6 or 10 in a day of new references to solar cooking. Well, I'm not kidding. We're in the middle of AI, they call it AI slop because it's just slop,
it's bullshit.
where it'll be a YouTube video saying, "Oh, here's how kids can do solar cooking." And someone has done this crawl where they've gotten some of them possibly legitimate sources and then transmogrified a vision of what the panel or a box cooker looks like, and it's garbage. They'll have a solar PV panel angled toward the sun as if it's reflecting into this cardboard box, or the aluminum foil will line the cardboard box, but then they'll close the lid, and then the sun hits the lid that's closed, and it's garbage. And I have taken on myself, and I probably shouldn't waste my time, but I hit the thumbs down button and
Yeah.
then I put in the comment, don't watch this. Go to solarcooking.org, the SCI wiki, which is vetted and has the real stuff. But it's such a flood. It's such a floodgates to
Yeah.
to fight it.
But it,
I
to me, that is
there's
very
some
scary. All this bullshit that looks real, but it's bullshit.
Yeah.
We have that in many topics, and there's all these videos that they kind of look real, but when you think it's just bullshit. And yeah, it's a strange world.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and there are some that posted on the World Network saying, well, the way we fight it is we just have to put out as much of our own stuff. But we're just this little thumbprint in this brick wall of uh, data centers. Um, but hopefully there will be some regulation to put a lid on a lot of the worst of it. If any of you have been on my personal Facebook, you'll notice I rip apart AI whenever I can. My favorite, it was actually it was about the only funny thing was they talked about some search large language model or whatever that was put together for something, and the creators left it alone, and they found after like 6 or 7 hours, it literally like got bored and it started looking up places to go camping, and beaches to go surf on. It's almost like this entity was saying, "I'm serving no purpose with whatever this creator put together." But that's just this one funny thing out of a sea of really horrendous things that are happening, especially the chat things where people are committing suicide because the chat thing tells them to. I mean, just anyway. And this is not made up stuff. I mean, this is the people are you can find their obituaries. It's not like a fake news, quote unquote. So thank you for doing that, Odile. That's it's part of the struggle of our age,
So
really.
I just put a link in the chat. This is an international organization that is trying to bring awareness and trying to get them to stop building the AI.
Great. I'm going to put that up and bookmark it. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
That said, on the slightly positive note, or very very positive note, but very just a small kind of footnote. I'm sorry, Tom Sponheim, who worked for Microsoft for like 35 years, 40 years, and understands this stuff. He knows how to use them to really take their strengths and just get what you need. And he's taken a few of the articles on the wiki and turned them into like an interview where it's two people that don't exist, but the one asks the questions, interview, and then the comments are made, and they're getting more and more natural. And the first one he did was about his own. Um, he devised this way of telling if water is pasteurized without needing a thermometer or a wiki or anything. He calls it boil three, add one. So if you've got a liter of water, get 3 liters of water, bring it to a boil, and then add 1 liter of water, and that will bring the temperature down to still above the pasteurization temperature.
oh,
And so
really?
you basically, yeah, so you just bring it to boil and then put the water, and you've got water that's
Oh,
pasteurized without needing instruments. Well, he did that as a dialogue, and then he did another one, and um, he's able to tweak them after he's done them if they have some flaws to improve on them. And in a way, and that's I mean that could be a good thing because who the wiki is fantastic. It's the Library of Alexandria of solar cooking. Everything that I know about has ended up in there, and there's probably more that I haven't gotten to yet. But some people would rather just click on something to say, well, okay, read the article to me, or have this dialogue about explaining how it goes. So it's something they can learn while they're cooking, or they can make sure they're getting the ingredients and everything. For busy people, but also or the blind, I mean, so forth. So I like the name of this website, Pause AI, because it could be massively good. But right now, um, I use the example of one military force where they said, well, we're using it to isolate terrorist targets. And the next day, they're bombing hospitals instead of arsenals. It just what was going through your head to think it was going to be able to, really figure this out. So, okay, yeah, we've run
okay.
far afield, but critical things that are happening out there that can really get in our way. So, well, great. Well, this has been almost an hour and 45 minutes of great conversation. Great. Well, I hope that you all come back with proposals to me. And once you get my note, if you see something in there that you hadn't thought of before as a way to participate in the festival, just let me know and just go ahead and start something up. It's not like I got to wait. I mean, I'm not going to be a filter. I'm going to be a collaborator in the long run. If you've got a project or a live stream or something,
Say,
so as they
Luke,
say, yes. Go ahead, Randy.
yeah, just not a side note, but if you could give me Odil's information and that solar um, uh, project that she's involved with,
Sure.
uh,
Yeah.
that would be
Uh,
great because Kenya is one of the places where we're looking at expanding to with
yeah.
solar oven partners. So
Oh, cool. Well, Odile, do you want to put the website? Oh, there it is. Odile just put their website, She Inc. Solar Household Energy Inc. She-inc.org.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, excellent. Well, this is a kind of connecting. I'm glad to see when we do these, Um, and the more of that, the stronger we'll get. Okay, well, unless there's anything else, thanks
Okay.
everyone for logging in. We have three continents at least represented here, and one in the island nation of England. And so this is fantastic.
Thank you very
Um,
much. Thank you very much, Luther. So you're talking about September of this year, correct?
yeah, September 12th to the 13th, 2026. And I will be, Joe and I are going to hit the road in our van late July. And she has a flute conference in Portland, Oregon. And then, other than that, we have no specific like family or other visits except for me to do some recorded solar stuff for the conference, and then doing some live streaming myself during the actual date range. Um, so yeah, September 12th. I forget what day is that. Is that a Anyway, you'll find it. That would be the Tucson potluck, knock wood. They'll have the park reserved. I'm going to be calling the guy who does the reservations. He said it would happen. It's not like I'm doubting it, but it's like before I hit the road, I want to be dead certain that they're ready and we can put out the word. So, all right.
The
Well,
12th is a Saturday, and the
okay.
13th is a Sunday.
Okay. Okay, so a Saturday. So hopefully that'll be a good. Well, that's right. Yeah, because they've been doing them on Saturdays, usually during Earth Week or September. Any of you that have been to Tucson, it's like uh, Central America, where they call them siestas for a reason. Where
Uh-huh.
things are shut down 10:30, 11 noon, and everyone just takes a nap because there's just no point. It's not that strict, but they do it when the weather is a lot more amenable and still sunny. So okay, so Randy, you got Odile put her email in there too. Hope you got that. And otherwise, yeah, and this has been recorded, and yeah, we touched on some hard topics, but unless there's any objection, I'm gonna leave it as is when I post it to my channel. So, all right. Well, thanks again, and we will be
Thank
in
Thanks,
touch.
everybody.
Thanks, Luther.
Yeah, look for a
you.
note from me before Tuesday.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Take good care. Keep it
Yep.
up.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.